Hi, welcome back to Cheyenne, Wyoming Urban Gardener. This is Debbie, Garden Zone 5A, 5B. I know you haven't heard from me in a little bit. It has been really busy with not only heat, we have been in the 90s almost every day for a while now. Tomorrow we're supposed to be down in the 60s, so there's going to be a large change in the weather. But we are finally getting cucumbers. They may slow down just a little bit with the coolness of the weather, but it looks like that we are definitely finally getting some cucumbers. Look at this. There's a cucumber there, two more over here, and there's cucumbers all over the vines. And this is the extension of the garden that we did just this season. No fertilizers in this soil, no amendments. This was just broken ground. We stuck in 3 cabbages and some dill, some basil, some cilantro, some flowers, which are just now blooming. We have zinnias and calendulas and cosmos in here. And they're all dwarf varieties, so they're not super tall, but they are a couple feet tall. And our cabbages over here are doing pretty well, given that they've been beaten up by hail. So they're starting to make some heads on them now. But we finally have cucumbers that are starting to roll in. It looks like we've got another one. Oh, look at that. 2 more cucumbers there. And I didn't even notice those earlier. And this one is blooming like crazy and getting ready to produce cucumbers as well. But it has taken a long time. We've had a cool and wet spring and summer, and mostly temperatures that were in the lower to mid 70s until a few days in July where we had some 80s and 90s. Then it got cool again. We had rain every day for 2 weeks of 1.5 inches to 2 inches, sometimes 2.5 inches of rain in 20-minute spurts a few times per day. And so it just was not consistent heat to produce cucumbers or melons. And yes, we've gotten a little bit of weeds in here because, again, this is just broken ground. And we've got beans that are starting to bloom over here that we'd planted. And we've got some zucchinis over here. We've got one that doesn't look like it's going to do very much. And we have 3 that are starting to set some blooms on them. So we will definitely get some zucchinis out of these guys. And we've got a couple more cucumbers coming on. This is an early fortune variety of cucumber, which is a Russian variety, and it's supposed to handle cool temperatures a lot better and actually grow better in cooler temperatures. So hopefully those will not be deterred by the cool temperatures that'll be coming up for the next 5 days. We're supposed to be in the 60s, low 70s. And everything out here is looking fantastic. This is right across from our herb garden, where we have some more beans in here and some celery, but mostly herbs, lemon balm and rosemary and thyme and oregano and lavender all in here. And then we've got 2 different types of chamomile both going to seed now and dying back, which is typical for this time of the season. But celery doing beautifully, starting to really put some stalks up there now. And this is our 2nd batch of celery. We actually have a 3rd batch of celery. The main batch is in the garden and is ready to harvest now. And looks like we've got a bloom on our loofah. Look at that. Nice yellow bloom on the loofah. And we have a bunch of cosmos in here too. Some of them are volunteer, some were planted. And we have some beautiful sunflowers growing here, and they're actually pretty large. These are supposed to be a dwarf variety, but they're about 5 feet tall. Getting a lot of mosquitoes this year. Look at all our snapdragons. This is a dwarf variety of snapdragons. And then we've got some weird cucumber over here that I don't remember planting. Take a look at this guy. Just an odd shape and a lot of spines. I think this might be a suyo cucumber. So that might be one that actually survived. Looks like this one did not set. So we'll take that one off so it'll produce some more. And hopefully they'll straighten out a little bit. and not be so weird. And then we have some more cucumbers in here that we just planted, some early fortune. And they're coming on pretty quick. They're only a couple weeks old. And definitely getting bigger already. Hopefully we'll have enough time to see some production out of them. But we've had a lot of tomato plants that have died back. It's just been really hot for a little bit. So we lost this one and these three. But we still have lots of tomato plants still in production right now, especially lots of tomatillos. And they're actually loving the heat. And just lots of stuff going on with the garden. We've gotten in a lot of squash setting now, lots of summer squash. See that nice white pumpkin there? And there's actually another one down in there that's bigger. And you see more tomatoes in our kiddie pools, and lots of peppers setting. And more tomatoes over here. Got some pretty nice big ones in there. And we still have some production on these guys, even though they look terrible at this point. Got a lot of them perking up and setting more fruit on them. Looking a lot better. And some new tomatoes on those. We've got some Amish paste that are finally setting, even though the vines look terrible. The tops still look pretty good on these. So they're still blooming and still producing some. And we're finally getting some dieback on our red pear tomato. And our Cherokee purple is just about gone. But it started to throw up another tomato right there. And our Jubilee has actually gotten a new breath and has started producing some more tomatoes. So maybe that'll get some more tomatoes out of this guy. And then we have cucumbers down here at the base. And those are starting to produce like crazy now too. So finally getting a lot of cucumbers. Our spaghetti squash has went nuts. We have spaghetti squash on the vines everywhere. You see a spaghetti squash down in there. And I just put one over the fence earlier. Here's another one down in there, and you can see that one is the first one. And we've got more down in there. Kind of hard to see. And look at these teddy bear sunflowers. Look at that. Aren't they gorgeous? And we've been harvesting some corn. The corn has been fantastic and very productive this year. We've had double ears on just about every one of them, and they've all been very nice. And we have more spaghetti squash over here. The vines have just basically gone nuts everywhere. A red curry down in there, and another red curry over here. See it over there. And we've got some newer ones that are all throughout the corn. We've got our yellow straight neck squash finally producing like crazy. We've had pollinators finally coming around and doing their jobs. And we've got some red curry squash in there. And here is a new, I believe this is a Boston marrow. And we've got a Boston marrow down in there. And then it is still going, and it's still producing and still blooming. We have potatoes to start digging very soon. Look at the potato vines dying back. We are starting to hold back on the water on those so they can finish on out. We've been picking beans like crazy. Our beans have been, I've gotten 3 half-bushel baskets now. Still going. I picked some more today for someone that we had lunch with and tea with. More cucumbers over here. Look at those vines full of blooms. Our eggplants are really starting to go nuts now. We're getting some nice sized eggplants in there. Here's another one. And another one. And 2 more. So hopefully these will be some nice sized eggplants that we'll be able to harvest. Our cherry tomatoes have not let up. Vines look pretty bad at this point, but they are producing like crazy. New tomatoes all the time. All of our green beans still going in here. We've had plenty of nasturtium blooms. Look at that. So we can start harvesting the seeds on those soon. We've had zinnias popping up everywhere as a surprise because I didn't even plant any over here. They came up volunteer. We've been picking tomatoes over here. Some of them had started getting ready. So loads of tomatoes in here. We've had spaghetti squash like crazy showing up over there. We've got peas that we're letting to go seed so that way we can save the seeds off of those. We've had zucchini coming out of these guys like crazy. We've got more cucumbers here. Those are all blooming and starting to produce. And you can see a little saffron squash there. And we've had squirrels attacking our sunflowers, which are now 13 to 15 feet tall at this point. And look at all those blooms. Gorgeous, gorgeous blooms through here. But wow, the squirrels have really been after them. You can see some of them bent over into the garden, and that's because the squirrels have been swinging on them. And stupid squirrels, they're trying to get seeds out of the sunflowers, and the flowers haven't even finished yet. Some of them just now started blooming. So you can see they're bent over the garden. And it's hard to bend them back up because sometimes you end up snapping them off trying to do that. So there's two more bent over the garden. We've got heads setting on all of our cabbages out through there. So that's why I'm trying to keep stuff up off of them. We have also got broccoli that is starting to set. These are the purple sprouting broccoli, so we look forward to seeing the heads on those. And we've got some really nice sized cabbages that I would love for you to see, but I'm gonna have to put these sunflowers back up. Let me see if I can do that real quick. So once the sunflowers get bent over like that, I actually broke one of those trying to get it up. Then they just are not easy to get back up, so I'll have to stick that one back up. Anyway, we've got Brussels sprouts down in there, some nice sized Brussels sprouts. I'm getting eaten up by mosquitoes, to be honest. So we're getting some nice size Brussels sprouts down in there. Gotta check and make sure that was a leaf and not some weird caterpillar. So it's kind of hard to see, but really getting some nice size heads on those cabbage in there. And this is a stonehead cabbage over here. Look how nice that is. And we're starting to get some of the kilo Napa cabbage starting to form heads. Are kind of hard to see because everything is just so wild. And we've got pumpkins sitting on the vines all along the fence and beans like crazy. So lots and lots of production, staggered production that worked out perfectly. I was worried the whole season, but they are really starting to produce like crazy now. You can see our pumpkins have climbed the fence. Don't really like trellising them, but sometimes you have no choice. So these guys trellised themselves. So there we have that. And we do have the beginnings of a pumpkin on this one. And you can see the vines just keep on going now. They split and went the other direction. And you can see it climbed the fence here as well. And we have had a little squash bug pressure this season. And fortunately, I've been keeping ahead of them. But we have lost some leaves to that. Got plenty of red curry over here. This is across the walkway in the front. And I think we've got another red curry starting up right there. And probably a couple more at this point. There's another new one there. And there's another one back in there. And we also have acorn squash that's setting on the vines everywhere, both white and green ones. And they're just kind of hard to see now at this point because they have gotten pretty big and pretty prolific in here. And everybody questioned whether or not my yellow straight neck squash would be able to produce anything being this close with all the other pumpkins and squash that we have. Well, what do you think? Do you think they're producing? Because that looks kind of successful to me. I've already pulled several off of these, and they are setting squash like crazy. Oh, we've got a big one down in there. Might have to pick that one tomorrow. And our Idaho russet potatoes are starting to die back now finally. And I know of one in there, because I've kind of dug it out, is huge. So I look forward to seeing those. And we have some really big carrots in here. I've looked. We've pulled a few. And we have some pretty massive rutabagas going on. And our Swiss chard is starting to put out new leaves now. So hopefully we'll get a little bit more of a harvest on these Swiss chard. But man, the mosquitoes are just so bad right now here in Wyoming. And it has been dry for a couple of weeks, but we are supposed to get rain all day tomorrow and possibly the next day. Let's see here what the squirrels do. That one hadn't even bloomed yet. So squirrels, unfortunately, I would love to do something about them, but you can't do anything about them in the city. So one of the reasons why we are getting away from the city. So all I can do is just toss them on the pile. We have more cucumbers over here that are starting to bloom and produce. And I believe these were early fortune too. And I've got, I think, 4 that survived from the hail. Our spinach is starting to come back. So I think it's about time that we plant some more seeds and get some more production on the spinach. We did plant some more radishes, and they are starting to look really good. They're only a few days old and they're already that big. So looking forward to some more radishes. Anyway, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell for notices on new videos as they come out. And look at the craziness of this garden going on right now. All of that food. We'll see you in the next one.